All right, so get this. You want a rundown of the top Faroe Islands news.
Yeah.
Just today and yesterday, and from what I'm seeing, it's election season over there. So that always adds a little spice to things.
Yeah, it
We've
does.
got articles, we've got websites, heck, even a few classifieds,
Oh, wow.
all in Faroes, of course. But thankfully, we've got an expert here to help break it all down.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I think it's interesting because it really is a snapshot of Faroe's life at the moment. We've
Yeah.
got the politics heating up, as you said, with the elections, but there's also some sports cultural events, a little touch of international news. It's all happening over there.
It's all happening. And I have to say, I am very intrigued by the political scene because we've got not one, but two major resignations happening.
Yes, two big resignations. Ingelin Strum, the former environment minister, resigned after a vote of no confidence in parliament.
Okay, so for those of us who maybe aren't as familiar with Faroe's parliament, what exactly does that mean, a vote of no confidence?
Well, basically, Parliament said they didn't trust her to do her job anymore. And it sounds like there were disagreements within the governing coalition. That's the group of parties that are currently in power about how she handled a particular issue.
And to make matters worse, it sounds like two members of her own party actually came out and said they couldn't defend her actions, which is unusual, right?
It is. It is unusual.
So what happens now? I mean, does the environment ministry just sit empty?
Well, for now, the Prime Minister, Axel V. Johannesson, he's stepping in. He'll oversee the environmental affairs until they find a more permanent solution.
Okay, so you've got an election right around the corner. I have to think this is making some voters nervous.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder how this incident is going to play into people's voting decisions. Is this a sign that the current coalition is unstable?
Yeah. It's like watching a political thriller unfold in real time.
It is.
And to add to the drama, we have another resignation. Honey Hoydal, leader of the Chodaveldi party for the past 24 years, stepped down.
Yes. This was a big surprise. Officially, he's saying it's just time for someone else to lead. But some people are wondering if it's connected to all the drama with Strum's resignation.
Right, because it does make you wonder if there's more to this story. Is there something going on behind the scenes we're not seeing?
It definitely raises questions,
I-
especially because it's just weeks away from the election.
Yeah, talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
So who's leading the Chodaveldi party now?
Well, Sirius Stenberg is the acting leader, but they're going to be electing a new leader officially on November 2nd.
Wow, so just days before the election.
Yes.
Things are getting interesting in Faroe's politics.
Yes. It really highlights how unpredictable things can be, especially during an election. And you have to wonder how all these changes will impact the future of the Faroe Islands.
For sure. But let's move away from politics for a minute,
Oh,
because it looks like there's some good news for football fans. TB has secured promotion back to the Premier League.
that's right. They won their match 1-0.
Okay. How did they pull off that victory?
The winning goal came from a penalty kick by Samadine Musa in the 74th minute.
Ooh, nail biter.
Yes, it was. It means that TB will be joining FC Suðuroy in the Premier League next year. So that means
So what does that mean?
the island of Suðuroy is going to have two teams in the Premier League, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's huge. That's a big accomplishment for the island.
Absolutely. And this is actually TB's fourth promotion since 2011, so clearly they're not giving up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a story of perseverance. And speaking of sporting events, I see there was some volleyball action as well.
That's right. The Faroe Islands U19 women's volleyball team, they hosted the NEVZ Championship.
Okay, break that down for me. What is NEVZ?
It's the North European Volleyball Zonal Association. So it's like a regional tournament for countries in Northern Europe.
Okay, got it. So they hosted this tournament. How'd they do?
They faced some tough competition, losing to both Norway and Denmark.
Well, it's not always about winning. Sometimes it's about the experience, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of experience, the U19 men's team, they also competed but lost their opening match to Sweden.
Okay, so a little bit of a mixed bag for the U19 teams. What about some of the other national teams? Are there any big tournaments coming up?
Well, the Faroe Islands women's national handball team, they are getting ready for the European Championship. And get this, Betri, a local company donated 2.5 million kroner to help them prepare.
Wow, that is incredibly generous. It sounds like they're really invested in supporting Faroe's athletes.
They are, and it's really wonderful to see that kind of community support.
Okay, so we've talked politics, we've talked sports. What are the cultural side of things? Any interesting events or celebrations going on?
Well, we've got two organizations celebrating big milestones this week. The Salvation Army is celebrating their 100th anniversary in the Faroe
A
Islands.
century. That's incredible.
It is. They held a special service to mark the occasion. And fun fact, the Faroe's Postal Service is releasing a new set of stamps to celebrate. They were
Mhm.
designed by Edward Fuglo. Oh.
Oh, very cool. What a great way to commemorate the occasion. What's the other organization celebrating?
The Faroe Islands Household School is celebrating their 50th anniversary. They had a public reception and exhibition in Klaksvik.
Oh, fantastic. It's always wonderful to see these institutions reaching such important milestones.
It is, but it's not all celebrations and happy news. We do have a couple of more serious news items to cover, one from the football world.
Oh, what happened?
Well, a key football player was arrested and is being held in custody for 4 weeks. He's facing charges of sexual offenses that allegedly happened in Denmark.
Oh, wow. That's serious.
It is. But let's shift gears to something a little lighter. There's been some really cool news from the world of whale research.
Okay, tell me more.
Researchers were tracking a tagged pilot whale, and guess what? They recorded it diving to a depth of over 1,100 meters.
Over 1,100 meters.
Seriously, that's the deepest dive ever recorded for a pilot whale that's been tagged in the Faroe Islands.
Wow, it's amazing what we're still learning about these creatures.
It is. And what a contrast, right? Serious legal issues and groundbreaking scientific discoveries, all happening within this one small community.
It's true. It's fascinating to see the full spectrum of life playing out in the Faroe Islands. But we're not done yet. We've only scratched the surface of what's happening over there.
Not even close. There's still so much more to uncover. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore the local happenings, cultural events, and even take a peek into the Ferris classifieds.
All right, I am hooked. Can't wait.
All right, ready to shift gears a little bit?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the more local happenings in the Faroe Islands. You know, it's not all national news and big sporting events. There's a whole lot going on at the community level, too.
I love that about this. We get the big picture stuff, but also those little details that really paint a picture of what life is like there. So what's happening out in the towns and villages?
Well, if you happen to be in Tórshavn, the capital city, and you're planning to take a stroll down Niels Finson's Gouda on Monday,
Yeah.
you might want to check your schedule.
Okay. Why? What's happening?
They're closing the street for a few hours that afternoon for a parade.
A parade. What for?
It's a parade to celebrate Multicultural Week.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a great way to see how the community is embracing diversity and celebrating different cultures.
Exactly. And speaking of cultural events, there's a big anniversary coming up for a beloved Faroese composer,
Yes, Knut Olsen.
Knut Olsen.
He's being honored with a whole week of concerts across all the islands.
Wow, a whole week.
Yes.
That's amazing. Where are the concerts being held?
They're taking place all over the islands, but the first one is in Vågskruk.
Okay. And where is that exactly?
That's a beautiful church in the village of Vágur, which is on the island of Suðuroy.
Suðuroy. Isn't that the island sending 2 football teams to the Premier League next year?
That's right.
It's a small world.
Yeah,
It sounds like the place to be if you want to experience Faroese culture, music sports.
it does. And if you're more into visual arts, there's a local artist, Polskar Denny, who is opening his annual autumn exhibition.
Okay, for those of us who've never been to the Faroe Islands, where can we find this exhibition?
It's in Smíjuni í Litluvik. That's a village on the island of Streymoy.
So between concerts in churches and art exhibitions in charming villages, it sounds like the Faroe Islands have a pretty thriving art scene.
They really do. And there's more. For history buffs, there's a local author, Hans Eiler Hammer, who has a new book out.
Oh, a novel.
It's actually a memoir about his life and experiences.
Very cool.
They're having a launch event for the book in Tórshavn, and then another one the next day in Faroe.
Wow, 2 launch events. He must be a pretty big deal in the Faroe Islands.
It seems that way.
Right
And if
on.
you like theater, there's a new musical play in the works based on the story of Julius Ilikudali.
Okay, Julius Ilikudali. Is that a famous Faroese folktale?
It's a well-known story,
Hmm.
and Sashil Jartson is adapting it into a musical called Julius Ilikudali 2.
Julius Ilikudali too.
You can catch it at the Nordic House in November.
Love that. They're keeping those traditional stories alive and giving them a modern twist. Speaking of keeping things alive, let's go back to the Salvation Army's 100th anniversary.
Yes.
What other celebrations are happening for this milestone?
Well, besides the special service and the commemorative stamps, it seems like they're really reflecting on their past and their impact on the community.
That's great. And it's not just institutions celebrating milestones. It looked like some classic children's literature is making a comeback.
That's right. The Magician's Nephew and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe are being re-released.
Oh, wow, I love those books. That's fantastic. It's amazing how a good story can connect with people across different times and cultures.
It really is. But not all the news is about celebrations and happy occasions. The police issued a warning about water on the roads in Søldarfjord.
Uh-oh. That sounds dangerous. What part of the islands is that?
Søldarfjord is a village on the island of Eysturoy. And speaking of road hazards, it seems there were some issues in Tjørnuvik as well.
Okay. What happened in Tjørnuvik?
Well, there was a rock slide caused by a burst in the mountainside, led to a road closure. But thankfully, it's expected to reopen later today.
Okay. Well, that's good news. I bet those road closures are pretty disruptive for residents.
Yeah, especially in a place where communities are so close-knit. But speaking of the community, there are also discussions happening about how to improve life for the elderly.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
What kind of improvements are they talking about?
Well, there's a growing awareness that more needs to be done to support the aging population. Better care facilities, improved living conditions, greater access to resources.
That's great to hear. That's a sign of a truly compassionate community. But it's not just about taking care of their own. The Faroe Islands are also looking at ways to connect with the wider world.
Right. There was a major energy conference in Vagar.
Okay, what was the focus of this conference?
It was all about the green energy transition. Renewable energy sources, reducing reliance on fossil fuels.
So sustainability is on their minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the key takeaway was that action is needed now. It's not just about talking anymore, it's about making changes.
Sounds like the Faroe Islands are serious about creating a more sustainable future.
They are. And it's not just for themselves. It's about contributing to a healthier planet for everyone.
Very cool. So they're taking care of their own, looking after their elders,
Mm-hmm.
and thinking about the global impact of their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive for such a small community.
It is. But hold on, we're not done yet.
There's more.
There's more. Next up, we're diving into the classifieds.
Oh, yes, the classifieds. I love this part.
It's a glimpse into everyday life in the Faroe Islands.
The classifieds. All right. Let's see what treasures we can uncover. What are people buying and selling in the Faroe Islands?
Well, someone's selling an 8-man rowing boat.
Ooh,
Comes with a fishing license, too.
Now, that's classic Faroe Islands, right?
It is. It's like a postcard image. A group of friends rowing out on the fords, hauling in a big catch.
I love it.
Yeah.
And speaking of classic Faroe's life, there's also a sauna mat for sale. I can just imagine those long, dark winters, coming in from the cold, straight into a steaming sauna.
Sounds perfect, doesn't it?
It does. And tell me they have those northern lights up there, too, right?
Oh, yeah. And speaking of the Northern Lights, imagine experiencing them from a spacious family camper van.
Wait, hold on. Is there a camper van for sale, too?
Yes, there is.
Okay, road trip across the Faroe Islands, checking out the northern lights from our cozy camper van. This is turning into my dream vacation itinerary.
And if you need help getting that camper van situated, there's a company advertising earthworks and moving services.
Perfect. They could level out a prime viewing spot for us, right next to the sauna. But wait, we might need someone to spruce in the camper van before we hit the road.
Don't worry, there's someone advertising painting services too.
This is amazing. We're all set for our Faroe Islands adventure. But wait, what's this? A house for rent in Herlev? Isn't that in Denmark?
Good eye. It is. It seems there are quite a few ties between the Faroe Islands and Denmark. Maybe someone's looking for a change of scenery or a little taste of big city life.
Interesting. So we've got the traditional rowboats, the connection to nature with the sauna and the camper van. But then there's this link to the outside world with the Danish rental property. It's like the Faroe Islands are this perfect blend of old and new, remote yet connected.
It's a unique balance. And to round out our classifieds adventure, someone's selling a sporty little Renault Clio.
Renault Clio, not exactly your typical rugged island vehicle.
Nope. It just goes to show you the range of lifestyles and preferences that exist within this small community.
That's so cool. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from politics to sports to culture whales, and even a peek into the everyday lives of the Faroes people through the classifieds. What stands out to you the most?
You know, I think it's the resilience and spirit of the Faroes people. They're dealing with some pretty big challenges right now, political uncertainty, economic pressures, but they're facing them head on, and at the same time, they're celebrating their unique culture, striving for a sustainable future, and finding joy in the simple things. It's really inspiring.
I completely agree. And it's a good reminder that no matter where you are in the world, people are facing similar challenges, striving for a better future, and finding ways to connect with each other. It's been an eye-opening experience, I have to say.
It has, and it leaves us with a lot to think about. How will the Faroe Islands navigate the upcoming elections? Will they continue to be leaders in sustainability? What other hidden gems are waiting to be discovered? It's a place that really captures the imagination.
It does. And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring. Learn more about the Faroe Islands, their history, their culture. Maybe even add them to your travel bucket list. There's a whole world waiting to be discovered in this tiny archipelago in the North Atlantic.
Well said.